What's up, everybody? Thrall's Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic, and I have a collection update for you. This one's gonna be pretty big. This is a healthy fucking stack right here. So this one is definitely a mixed bag of new releases, old releases. There's some stuff that I picked up at some shows recently, and there's some stuff that I picked up while I was in Tiffin at Under the Surface Records, which, again, if you are in the Tiffin area, go hit up that place. There's lots of cool underground stuff there. Got some splits, some EPs, some demos in here. Again, I got a lot of stuff in here, so I'm just gonna get right down to it because this is a big fucking stack, so let's do this. Mutilatred Determined to Rot. This is the second full length from this Toledo-based death metal act, or brutal death metal act, rather. These guys are kind of like hometown heroes, the underground here, and holy shit, these guys are ridiculously heavy. They play a hyper-aggressive style of brutal death metal, mostly a lot of blast beats, a lot of bomb blast beats. The guitars are unbelievably fucking chunky in here. I would just go ahead and say that this entire mix is just dimed, like gasoline soaked and set on fire, because it is unfucking believably heavy. Lots of deep, disgusting growls. Not a tremendous amount of groove. Like, this is very fast, and honestly the songs in here are very short, but they're very concise and again, unbelievably brutal. I would almost consider this like musical assault. It's so fucking heavy. The pace of this album is relentless. There's very little in the way of breaks between the tracks. Like, occasionally you get some feedback and shit, but most of the time it is on to the next unbelievably brutal flurry of just hatred and disgust. And oh my god, these song titles are fucking great. Everyone's Doing Shitty. That is the opener. I fucking love that. Like, I don't know, like, there's a little bit of dark humor to a lot of these titles. Veins Kind of Clogged. All the Way Dead, Fuck Everyone, which I believe is a continuation of a song in their last EP, which I think was, I don't know, fuck something. I don't know. It was definitely fuck something. That's for damn sure. Shitted Out, which the out is in parentheses. While I'd say this is like definitely akin to bands like, I would say, Devourment, there's a little bit of like an old school vibe to it, especially in how like dirty it sounds. Like, it sounds like a brutal death metal version of Incantation at times. And it does lay down some pretty solid grooves in Blood Machine and Sickened to Death. But most of the time, again, this is very fast, very just relentless. Like, this album does not give any fucks. In fact, fuck everyone. They said it earlier. That kind of does lead to a lot of tracks running together. And there is an issue with the title track, Determined to Rot. At the end, there's like this long sort of ambient middle section before it goes on to what I assume is the second part of the song. I don't know, part of me thought it might have been a Mortician cover that they squeezed in there, but honestly, like, it just kind of became a little bit too much there. Like, it kind of reminded me of the whole hidden track shit that I went through in the fucking 90s, and I just am so fucking tired of that. But overall, this is a sick slab of nasty, brutal death metal, like, honestly up there with some of the heaviest shit I have heard this year. So if you're looking for something to maybe surpass whatever heavy shit you're listening to, this might be it. So yeah, definitely check it out. Witchery Nightside. This is the 8th album from this Swedish blackened thrash metal act. Actually features current and former members of The Haunted, Carnal Forge, Seance, and I believe Entombed AD. Now, I did plan on doing like a full-on review of this, but due to time constraints, I just couldn't get around to it, so here I am covering it here. And this is a pretty solid Witchery album. It's very thrashy. I would say thrash is sort of the bulk of this. Like, it does have some more blackened tracks, especially Storm of the Unborn. That one actually is definitely more of a black metal song. You do have some cool guests on here. Jeff Walker is on here from Carcass. I believe one of the guitarists from Kvelertak. I believe also one of the members of Wolf is on here. And Hank Sherman, formerly of Merciful Fate, is also on here. And yeah, this is just a fun, high-energy release. I especially like the tracks Pope Crusher and Church Burner. Definitely a bit of a theme there. But I like them because they're just super high-energy, thrashy, and in-your-face, and I think that is where this band excels. Now, I have to say, this album is so fucking compressed, especially the drums. The drums, like playing in my car with the bass up, I kind of look for that nice little stampede with the double bass. It's not there. Like, it's kind of a lackluster thud that really doesn't sort of like boom or give the album any punch. So yeah, the drums feel kind of just almost not there. Like, they're very soft sounding, at least in comparison to the rest of the album, which is very heavy. I love the vocals on here. I think they're very over the top in like a sort of a fun, campy way. And despite this being more like a straightforward and riffy and aggressive, there's some cool atmospheric moments on here that add a lot. There are some odd interludes slash instrumentals on here. This one is in German, Ernsten in Flammen. That last word is definitely fire. Not sure about the rest of it, but that is sort of like a segue into Pope Crusher. It's okay, but it comes as the 4th track on here. I thought that was a little soon. And then Under the Altar, well, after they already had one interlude or one instrumental, I thought that one was just a little bit much. But overall, I thought this was a pretty solid release. I really enjoyed the last one. Actually, the last two I think were really good. But this one, I don't know if it quite matches up to those, but this is still really good. Like, if you like black and thrash and like good solid riffy hooks, they are definitely all over here. Despite the production issues, I thought this was still a really fun release. And if you like black and thrash and like good solid like thrashy hooks, this album right here, damn good. And honestly, check out like literally the rest of their discography, because they have a lot of killer shit. So yeah, check this out. Yatra Born into Chaos. This is the 4th album from this Maryland-based death metal act. This band actually has recently switched over to death metal. Apparently they were like more stoner, doom, sludge before. And I've heard a lot of buzz about this album. I jammed a couple of tracks when it was on YouTube, and I was like, okay, I can see why the buzz is there, because this is some really disgusting, well, sludgy death metal. You can honestly tell that this band has more of a sludge or stoner doom background, just the guitar tone, like how raw and thick it is. Like, it kind of reminds me a bit of High on Fire with like a little bit more like death metal chunkage to it. And vocally, it's not the most traditional death metal vocals. They are more like screams, and they have like a lot of like reverb on them, and it sounds more like the shriek you would associate with like I Hate God, more so than like, you know, like traditional death metal roars. But stylistically, this is totally like just straight up 100% old school death metal. There's so much grit and filth to this. I love the production. This just sounds menacing and brutal as hell. Lots of groove-laden songs. I especially love Terminate by the Sword and Terrorizer. The breakdowns in those songs are just flat out fucking disgusting. This is very riffy. There's not a tremendous amount of lead work, but they make up for that by just being just disgustingly heavy at all times and gritting you to a ton of fucking riffs. I really like the drum work on here too. The drums sound fucking great. Like, that snare sounds absolutely fucking massive. And again, that little bit of like leftover sludge metal that is kind of still present in this kind of gives us like, I don't know, a little bit different sound. Like, this doesn't blend in with a lot of the old school death metal that's out there. And that has definitely kept me coming back, because I mean, there's a ton of death metal out there right now, and we're gonna go over a good fucking chunk of it here. But I really dug this. This is just a fantastic, raw, gritty fucking album. I love the guitar work. Again, vocals are different. This is just disgusting sounding. And yeah, for all the hype that I've heard, I would say the hype is pretty well deserved. I still want to check out some of their earlier stuff, because I'm kind of curious what they sounded like before they took the hard shift to death metal. But I like the hard shift to death metal, so you guys can just stay right here and it'll be just fine by me. But I'm still going to check out your earlier shit. I like how I shifted to thinking I'm actually talking in the band versus the people actually watching this, because I don't know if the band's actually watching this or if they will. But still, this is fucking fantastic. Definitely check this out. Again, I don't know anything about their earlier stuff. I am eventually going to go check that stuff out, but I can strongly recommend this if you just love raw, gritty, and kind of sludgy death metal. This is nasty. Check it out. All right, we have a split here from Bedsore and Mortal Incarnation. This came out this year on 20 buck spin, and well, I was interested in both because I've actually reviewed both before. John and I actually reviewed Bedsore's album Hypnagogic Hallucinations in 2020, and that ended up being a year-end one for me, and I did a solo review on Mortal Incarnation's original demo, and that was pretty sick. So naturally, when I saw both of them had a split, I was really interested. Now, this is only 2 tracks, and both tracks are over 14 minutes long, and in my opinion, this is the best I have heard from both bands, and I absolutely loved Bedsore's Hypnagogic Hallucinations. I think that is an absolutely amazing atmospheric death metal band. A little background, Bedsore from Italy. They had their big debut on 20 buck spin. Absolutely amazing. This, I think they go into even more progressive territory. There's more synths, there's just as much atmosphere, but it feels more put together. It's like more meticulous. They're not as focused on just the atmosphere, but the intricate song wranglings on here. Again, 14 minutes long, you have a lot of room there to really do some cool song building dynamics, and it's absolutely fantastic. There's a lot more melody, I think, present in that song. I love the proggy bridge on Bedsore song, which I probably should have wrote down the names of the songs, but I believe they were both like a full fucking sentence long, and there was no way I was gonna keep saying that over and over again. So we'll just say Bedsore song and then Mortal Incarnation song just to keep it simple. But back to Bedsore song, I love the proggy bridge where I believe it's like a Hammond organ sound comes in. It's absolutely fucking mind-blowing, but they still deliver some flat-out crushing death metal in there too. Again, I think this is one of the best things they've done so far, but granted, this band has not been around for very long, but at the same time, I've liked everything they've put out so far. And Mortal Incarnation from Japan, this is, I believe, only the second thing they've ever been on. Their demo I thought was really good, very murky, but lots of like dark, cavernous, kind of incantation-ish death metal, and that is the bulk of their song as well, which again, this is also a 14-minute song, and it's also amazing, but for different reasons than the Bedsore song. These two songs could not be more different, but they're both very dynamic in different ways. Mortal Incarnation song is dark, really hangs on to the old school death metal vibe, like lots of incantation and immolation style riffing, twisted, angular. The whole vibe of it is less spacey and more sinister, even though you get some cool like clean tones in there and like some more dissonant melodies. This is definitely the more riffy song of the two. Like, it's just a dark death metal song with great chuggy riffs all throughout it, but it also has nice melodies to break up all the brutality. I think both songs complement each other well. Like, they're very different approaches to death metal and very different approaches to atmosphere in general, because honestly, you kind of feel differently about each song. I had a hunch this would be awesome. Granted, I hadn't heard anything from Mortal Incarnation since their demo, but wow, unbelievable. Both bands absolutely fucking nailed it. This is an absolutely killer split. If you love atmospheric death metal and just riffy death metal and old school death metal, I would say just death metal that likes to experiment in general, check this fucking split out. Both songs absolutely amazing. Both bands fucking amazing so far. I'm definitely looking forward to whatever both these bands plan on releasing in the future, but if it's anything like this, there's a damn good chance I'm gonna love it. This is an absolutely amazing split. I strongly recommend literally anything by either one of these bands, but yeah, if you're gonna get one thing with both of the bands, and this is probably the only thing that exists with both bands on it, get this, because it's fucking awesome. Both tracks, killer shit. Check it out. Mares of Thrace, The Exile. This is the third album from this Canadian, let's see, post-metal sludge / hardcore band. Kind of all over the map here. This is legit my first experience with them. I've heard the name passed around, mostly from fans of like post-metal, I would say like, you know, ISIS, Russian Circles, stuff like that. But I never actually sat down and listened to them, and this is really interesting stuff. This is a two-person band here. I probably should have wrote down their names since there was only two of them, but again, there's only so much space in my notepad over here. You have a bassist and a frontwoman, and the drummer also does guitars on here, I believe, and this actually does a pretty good job of blending all those styles. I would say in the heavier moments, you definitely get the big sludge vibes, especially bands like Buzz Oven. Like, it has that sort of filthy sort of vibe, like the vocals sound extra throaty and raw. There's a fair amount of distortion on the guitar tones, just thick and fucking murky. But I was surprised by the amount of melody on here. The song Dark Harbors has this cool, like, delayed guitar effect. It sort of builds in the atmosphere and you hear more clean vocals, but they're very haunting and very layered, and kind of gave me like ISIS vibes like a little bit, and I absolutely love that fucking band. But that was a cool one that actually shows them sort of building the song and sort of deconstructing and then constructing it back up. It has its heavier moments, but most of the vibe on it is very just chill, like kind of a dark, dreary Neurosis song. But songs like Mortal Quarry actually show off the more hardcore side. And another band that I hadn't thought of in a while that this band reminded me of was All Else Failed. I had not jammed All Else Failed in forever, but I instantly, just the song construction, the drum work on it, really fucking reminded me of that band. And that band had a really interesting approach to like hardcore in general too, and this kind of just echoes that. The whole thing flows really well. I love the production on it. It kind of has this dark and murky vibe to it, but It's very well mixed. Like, you can hear everything going on, and all the spacey melodies they used to break up all the heavier sections on here I thought was really good. I definitely want to check out their previous two after this. Again, this was a first exposure for me, and I liked what I heard. Like, there's really just cool songwriting going on here, and again, the dynamics I think are really fun, especially the vocal dynamics. There's a lot of cool stuff like conveyed in the vocals with like the more ghostly clean vocals and just the flat out vicious throat ripping screams on here. So yeah, pretty much if you are a fan of sludge metal, post metal, or hardcore and you kind of want it all wrapped up into one, this would not be a bad way to go. Again, I know nothing about this band outside of this album and what I looked up on them. So there's definitely more I want to find out about this band and definitely more I want to listen to by this band. But I do recommend this one because, well, this is the only one I've listened to and I did like it. So yeah, of course I'm going to tell you to check it out because yeah, it's good. I dig it. So check it out. All right, we have another split here from Termination and Kruelty, the Ruination of Imperialism split. Now, I was only familiar with Termination. I actually picked this up on 20 Bucks Spin's website, and this actually comes out in a different record label, Dead Sky Productions. Now, Termination is the only band I actually knew on here. They have the first 3 tracks in here. They are a death metal / hardcore band from Arkansas, and this is just vicious, beat down, groovy death metal. Like, I mean, it's kind of similar to like Gatecreeper, Creeping Death. It's very just straightforward, lay on the groove, big, like, just slammy fucking chugs left and right. The opening track, Curators of Brutality, I really enjoyed, except for this weird little, like, industrial sort of section that pops up really early on the song. Like, it feels like it's building momentum, and then you get this weird interlude on here. And, I mean, it's cool. It has its, like, you know, sort of like Godflesh-ish sort of appeal to it, but it does kind of put the brakes on the song a little bit. Now, they do that a lot. We actually reviewed their album Holocene Extinction. We really enjoyed that one. Solid fucking album. There was a lot of variety on that album just in terms of like different approaches to death metal. This one I think is a little bit more straightforward minus that little industrial segue. But yeah, solid fucking just brutal, groovy death metal. Like, no bones about it. It is out to fucking break every bone in your fucking body and leave you a puddle of bone chunkified fucking mush in the pit. And if Termination doesn't fucking finish you off that way, then Kruelty most certainly will. They are a death doom / hardcore band from Japan, and holy shit, their 2 songs are fucking unreal. The death doom elements, I think it's kind of more in maybe some of the riffs, like they don't really get down to like those big doomy breakdowns as much. Like, they're definitely slow, they're definitely lumbering when they have more of a hardcore feel to them. But holy shit, it is so damn heavy. It is ridiculously heavy, and I love the groove. Like, you can't help but to headbang to it. Baseline, if I had to describe this band, I would say it's Coffins plus more hardcore. And then maybe squeak in like a little bit of bands like, you know, Creeping Death or Maul. Their new album's fucking fantastic. It stays more slow to mid-tempo. You do get some like D beats every now and then, but man, it's just relentlessly heavy. And the production is fantastic pretty much across the board on this entire split. Like, the guitars are also out in front and very chunky. They even do a vocalist swap on tracks here too, which I think was really cool. As in, the vocalist from Kruelty guests on the Termination side, and then the vocalist from Termination guests on the Kruelty side. Pretty much both bands, I would say, did everything right on this. This is an absolutely just pulverizing fucking split. Both bands absolutely killing it. I had never heard of Kruelty with a K before. I've definitely heard of a Kruelty band with a C before. But yeah, I need to get their stuff because, oh my god, I love it. Doomy fucking slam breakdowns. That's a fucking thing, and it's as heavy as it fucking sounds, and Kruelty does it well. They have one full length. I'm definitely gonna hunt it down because I need more than just 2 songs by this band. So yeah, another split where I strongly recommend both bands. If you have not checked out the bulk of their work, like, I'm just gonna go ahead and assume that Kruelty's album's awesome. I'm just gonna fucking buy it anyway. But I know Termination's album's awesome, and everything on this whole split is awesome. So yeah, pretty much just get this, and then get all the stuff you can by both these bands, because they're both fucking killing it right now. This was flat out fantastic. It's so heavy, it fucking hurts, and if any of that sounds good, definitely check this out. Undergang. All right, I have to say this. Okay, fuck me. All right, Ufrivillig Donation. Oh, that one's an easy one. Off Vital Organer. That might be something about donating vital organs. Either way, this is the 2019 EP that preceded their last album, which I'm not gonna say that title too because I'll fuck it up as well. But we actually reviewed their last album. It's awesome, much like pretty much everything by Undergang. This is a Danish death metal band that is just fucking disgusting and sludgy, and they have, for the most part, those Demolish style, like deep bullfrog fucking vocals, and I absolutely fucking love them. Now, honestly, I didn't really need this one because both the first two tracks are tracks that pop up on the last one. Again, it's an awesome album. But the main reason I got this was they did a cover of Funebray's Grip of Insanity, and Children of Scorn is a fucking killer death metal album if you've never checked that out. Now, I probably could have just downloaded it, but I don't want to download anything really. Also, fuck Spotify. I think we covered that in the Torture Killer review. So naturally, I just had to buy this. But I did get some live stuff on here. God, what the fuck is this one? Intet auf Daden. That's the track they play live on here. And honestly, I don't think I own the album with it on it, or if it's on like a split or an EP. It didn't matter because it's awesome. It's just flat out gross fucking death metal, and judging by this recording, they killed live, which I'm not shocked by at all. While the live performance is absolutely amazing, the best part of it is there's a bridge where the vocalist just loses his shit and just starts violently shrieking slash retching slash almost vomiting into the microphone, and it's just so, like, again, over the top and fucking ridiculous. And I don't know, like, here lately I like a little bit of camp in my death metal because it's just fucking fun. You should just embrace how ridiculous death metal is, because it is ridiculous. It doesn't, like, dull the impact of its brutality at all. That just makes it even more fun to listen to, at least in my opinion. Undergang definitely seems to know that, and it's fucking awesome. Yeah, but yeah, this is just a short EP. Again, I bought it essentially for one track. That fucking cover rules. But yeah, not necessarily like the most necessary release, but the live track on it is fucking awesome, and the cover of Grip of Insanity, I don't know, you could almost justify, you know, paying, well, I think I paid like, $9 or something like that. Might have been a little pricey for shit I already had, but you know what? Ultimately, I still fucking really dig it. So yeah, I mean, if you love Undergang and you want to hear them live and hear a cool Funebray cover, definitely check this out then. White Ward, Love, Exchange, Failure. This is the second album from this Ukrainian post-black metal act. We just went over False Light. Holy shit, that album is fucking amazing. I wanted more, plain and simple. And I saw this one and was like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking pick it up because I assume it's gonna be awesome. And it was. I don't know if it's as good as False Light. I think that album, maybe because it was the first exposure I really had to the band, but this one is still incredible. Like the elements of folk and like kind of like avant-garde jazz and wild atmosphere, like it's all very present as much as it is on False Light. I just think False Light is a little bit more organized than this one. They both have the same like great fucking dynamics, and again, the unpredictable song structure. Like there's stuff I would say that is comparable to BT Bam, except in a post-black metal sort of vibe, like Wayfarer or Harakari from the Sky, except maybe with like BT Bam's more unpredictable nature. It all works so well. The songs flow into each other very well. The instrumentation is amazing. You have slide guitars, there's horns, there's synths. I think there's like a fair amount of like musical fearlessness and stuff like that. Kind of reminds me of like Isan too, because I think there's a good chunk of this that actually reminds me of Isan. Granted, I think some of the songs in here are a little bit longer than what he does. I keep thinking about how this band would be live. Like, I imagine it'd be amazing, but with the, like, sharp dynamic shifts and everything, like, this gets intensely heavy in moments, and then intensely calm and atmospheric in others. It seemed like it would, like, perpetually confuse a mosh pit, but I kind of want to watch, because I don't get in pits, because I'm old and I don't heal as quickly anymore. But I definitely watch them, and yeah, sometimes it's really interesting when a band that's like super technical or has a lot of big shifts in their songs that people might not see coming kind of react to it. But again, the atmosphere and the adventureness thing, like that is one of the big things in here. The song Shelter, it's almost kind of like Charlie Brown music, like the pianos you'd hear in Charlie Brown, you know, cartoons and movies and shit, except with like muffled screams in the background that sound absolutely fucking haunting. So yeah, no, it was kind of an interesting contrast there. And Surfaces and Depths has some wonderful sultry female vocals on it that just add a very haunting mood to it. This is fantastic, and I kind of knew it would be. It's not as good as False Light, at least in my opinion. I know there's probably some out there where they jumped on with this album, or they jumped on with the first one and they love this one just as much. I don't know, like this band's still kind of new to me, but side by side, I think False Light is a bit better, but this is still fucking excellent. So one is essentially slightly less brilliant than the other. If you have not jammed this band, I strongly recommend at least their last two albums. I still haven't heard the first one, but I'm gonna go on a limb here and say it's probably fucking awesome. I feel like I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. But yeah, I'd just say check out this band. This is some of the coolest stuff I think going on in terms of like black metal right now, in terms of like how expansive the fucking genre is. Great fucking album. Ukraine, we're still fucking with you, and check this out. Aerosmith, Draw the Line. Yeah, we're getting pretty fucking old school with this one. This was their fifth album, you know, Boston-based, classic rock, maybe, you know, proto-metal. I don't know, it's always been sort of an argument whether or not Aerosmith had, like, metal in them. I would say hard rock. There's nothing wrong with being hard rock, and they were pretty good at it. I like early Aerosmith just because it was, you know, dirty and rowdy. Like, they sound like a fucking maniacal fucking bar band. Like, there's blues rock elements, there's harmonicas, there's just dirty, sleazy riffs, there's dirty, sleazy lyrics. But the songs are fun, and I love, like, classic rock that has a lot of fun. Songs like Critical Mass and Get It Up, which Get It Up, I don't know, like, I imagine with the amount of fucking cocaine that band snorted, that's probably what they were fucking yelling at their own dicks. But the song's fucking fun. It's kind of got like a disco-ish beat, it's a great fucking riff to it. But the standout on here, and honestly the song that I bought it for, was Kings and Queens. Holy shit, what an awesome fucking song. I think it's honestly one of their best songs in their entire back catalog. The vocal hooks are gigantic. The melodies are fucking soaring. There's a beautiful fucking lead on it. Kind of like Dream On, it kind of shows like what they can do when they were really focusing on writing a giant sized song. Now with Aerosmith, there's definitely a cutoff point for me. Like, I don't really bother much with like Pump or Permanent Vacation or, you know, any of that stuff. Like, cause I heard that stuff nonstop on the radio and I got fucking annoyed with it. Like, you know, Janie's Got a Gun and fucking Dude Looks Like a Lady, Love an Elevator. Like, I'm so fucking tired of like most of that shit. Like, there's still some stuff in there that, you know, I still attach to in terms of a nostalgic thing, but I didn't get to hear a lot of classic Aerosmith because everyone wanted to hear that Aerosmith on radio. So getting into like the classic stuff now, I have a newfound appreciation for it. So I'm definitely going to get some more of the early stuff by them, and I guess this is my launching point for it. But yeah, this is a pretty decent album. It's a little uneven production wise, and some songs maybe a little too goofy for their own good, but overall it's a fun classic rock album. And again, Kings and Queens might be worth the entire album, at least in my opinion. But yeah, either way, if you've never checked out old Aerosmith and you've only heard, you know, the stuff that everyone's fucking heard, check it out. It's actually really solid old school classic rock. The Hellacopters, Grand Rock. This is the third album from these Swedish retro rockers, came out in 1999. This is the band that Nick Andersson left Entombed to start, and yeah, this is straight up retro rock, very classic rock, kind of mixed with a little bit of punk energy, and slowly going backwards and getting the earlier stuff that I missed out on. Like, I think I started around High Fidelity, and I thoroughly enjoyed that album. Like, this is all classic rock oriented, like big rock tones, stuff that is very much in the vein of like Thin Lizzy. I would even say Kiss. I mean, especially Kiss, because there's a song on here called Paul Stanley, and you know, it kind of has that sort of ethos to it, like straight up simple rock riffs with big, powerful fucking harmonies and giant choruses, and they keep it rowdy and keep it fun. Even when they slow down, there's still like this biting energy to it. Like, it still feels like very explosive, which is kind of cool to hear like that in like a more, you know, bluesy song in here. But overall, I mean, God, dude, this album's just awesome. And I kind of expected that. you can hear the love of all this classic rock in their style. Like they're doing a proper, like, I don't want to call it a tribute because these are all original songs, but they're definitely done in the spirit of, you know, all the fucking bands that probably influenced them. I actually picked up their newest one. I absolutely love it. And I think in that little brief review and a collection update, I also said rock needs bands like this. Because honestly, in terms of like flat out rock and roll, I don't know, it's kind of spotty. Like we need some big fucking rowdy rock bands that kind of remind us why rock was fucking king at one point. And I still think Hellacopters are that band, but I don't think they get a tremendous amount of exposure. So here I am trying to expose them a little bit more. If you just want to hear some classic fucking rock that is high energy with great fucking hooks pretty much across the board, like I don't think there's a flat out weak song in here. All of them are really fucking good. Definitely check this out and go check out like all of Hellacopter stuff, especially that new one. The new one's fucking really good. But yeah, check this out. Hellacopters fucking rule. Incantation, Blasphemous Cremation EP. This is the third EP from Pennsylvania death metal institution. Now I didn't know this picking it up, but I should have looked at the songs and kind of thought like, oh yeah, those are all on Onwards to Golgotha. But the thing I didn't realize at the time is that these are all the rough demos from those sessions. And honestly, they sound fucking great. Now I did think I was gonna get like one kind of unreleased song in here with the song Godsend. Turns out that is Deliverance from Horrific Prophecies. They just changed the name. And well, I mean, Deliverance from a Horrific Prophecy sounds like a very Incantation name for an either album or a fucking song. So, yeah, I could see why they changed it. But yeah, this sounds fantastic. Like, it's raw and gritty, and, you know, that is definitely Onwards to Golgotha, but this has, I don't know, just like a little bit of extra dirt in it. I think the bass is up a little bit more. There's less of the cavernous effect in the vocals, which I know is like a huge thing with Incantation. It was kind of cool just to hear straight up raw vocals right up front. Now, another interesting thing I found out, though, looking into this was intended to be a split EP with Amorphous. And I guess they didn't manage to get this together, and, well, Amorphous' side became the Privilege of Evil EP, and this, they just continued to work on the rest of their debut album. So this is just sort of an extra, like, in terms of, like, just more stuff I own by Incantation, but honestly, it was cool hearing the demo versions, and honestly, I think they are, I mean, like, at least close to being as on par with, you know, how they ended up on Onwards to Golgotha. But yeah, not a necessary release just in terms of, like, yeah, you have all these songs if you have Onwards, but if you want to hear the disgusting demo versions, I would still say check this one out. It's pretty fucking gnarly. Melvins Ozma and Gluey Porch Treatments. This is a compilation that came out in 1989. For those that don't know, Melvins, you know, Seattle-based fucking sludge metal, at least at the time, or like proto-sludge metal. Whatever they were doing, it was weird, it was heavy, and it was 100% them. Like, I don't think there was a single band out there that sounded like the Melvins, and that might have been on purpose. Now, I already own Gluey Porch Treatments, but I didn't own Ozma. I wanted Ozma because Ozma is like just as strange and fucking heavy as Gluey Porch Treatments. Maybe a little bit more atmosphere to it, maybe a little bit different production, but overall, kind of the same vibe. You get a lot of short songs that are just like odd collections of riffs with Dale Crover's weird drum patterns, buzzos, kind of haunting bellows and croons, and those fucking riffs, man. These guys just know how to write strange songs that are still surprisingly catchy. You can definitely tell that like a lot of sludge metal was definitely inspired by, I would say, early Melvins. I mean, I Hate God make no fucking bones about being giant Melvins fans and saying that that was like the primary inspiration. And you could really hear that on just about every fucking song. I will say it's kind of a carryover from Gluey Porch Treatments. Some of the songs do feel kind of incomplete, like Agonizer kind of just ends. And some of them feel like they're building towards something and then never quite get there. But at the same time, I really appreciate just how unique their songs were. Like, you know, they're still unique. They're still fucking strange. And they're still kind of unpredictable. Like Love Thing. It's like kind of a pleasant poppy rock song, but with like a sludge tone to it. Like, I love the more lighthearted sort of like bouncy riffs versus, again, like Revulsion Re-Reach, which is doomier than fuck. This band clearly never wanted to be pigeonholed, and well, at the same time, they kind of just invented a genre around them by saying it was sludge metal. Essentially, I mean, there's definitely other bands that could have been like the Godfathers of Sludge too, but it's usually the Melvins that most people bring up. One of my favorite things on here, though, is the Cars cover of Candio. Like, it's this sludgy, doomy version, but they do the melodies justice, and I'm a giant Cars fan, so when I saw that, I was like, well, all right, I'm probably going to really enjoy this. But yeah, this was as solid as I knew it would be. I've definitely heard tracks from Ozma before, but I've never owned a copy of it. And now, by default, I have 2 copies of Bluey Porch Treatments, which it's not a bad problem to have, honestly. But yeah, if you've never jammed early Melvins and you like sludge metal, like, I feel like you had to have jammed early Melvins at some point. But if you haven't, this is kind of like the origins of it. Like, in terms of like the overall sound and just how strange and twisted it is, Melvins. I mean, it's still the Melvins. It will probably always be the Melvins. They're just that fucking band. They're weirder than hell, and I fucking love them for it. And yeah, this is another one that I'm super happy I own now. So yeah, check this out. Nebula, Atomic Ritual. This is the 3rd album from this California-based stoner metal act. I've been meaning to actually get more of this band, just because I actually own Heavy Psych and Apollo. I do really enjoy those albums. I just hadn't listened to them in forever. And honestly, at the time of doing this, I did not realize they just put out a new album. So, well, there's one more to check out. This band is very, like, classic rock oriented stoner metal. Like, it's definitely heavy. It has the warm analog sort of fuzziness to it, but there's like a jamminess to it. Like, this is kind of like acid rock a little bit, or maybe like bands like Mountain or Ram Jam, but mix that with like early Queens of the Stone Age too. Like, this band has good classic rock hooks, but they like to take like the bridge for a weird walk. There's lots of spacey atmosphere all over here. And, you know, kind of like a similar vibe to like a Fu Manchu album. Like, let's just kind of like riff this thing out and see where the song takes us. The production is definitely a standout for me. Again, I love that warm analog sound when it comes down to stoner metal. Like, anything that sounds like those early Black Sabbath albums, I generally love. And I love the fact that the bass really drives the songs. The bass is very up in the mix. It just has a nice big sound to it, and it's very present, and I love just how it sounds in general. The songs have, again, tons of like kind of classic rock hooks to them. The vocals are kind of okay. Like, another thing I would compare to Fu Manchu, where, you know, Scott kind of has this, you know, straightforward, you know, delivery. It's almost kind of a spoken word, but kind of tuneful. Kind of the same in Nebula. And as much as I do love the production here, there were a lot of people involved in the production when I looked this up. So from song to song, it can kind of change, and it kind of gives it a little bit of an uneven vibe. And, well, I mean, another complaint is the last track, Finn. It's a cool instrumental, and then it cuts off for 2 minutes and 40 seconds. So here comes the hidden track fucking shit that I still don't like. But the hidden track is a raw demo version of the opening track, the title track, Atomic Ritual. And honestly, I kind of like that version more. Like, there's a little bit more heft to the guitars, and you still get all the, you know, wonderful fucking bass licks in there and the fun grooves and everything. It's just maybe a little bit heavier. Overall, this is just solid stoner rock. Again, I kind of like that weird, like, acid rock vibe, like, you know, late 60s, early 70s sort of feel to it. But at the same time, still has that desert rock vibe, like, you know, like kind of the Kaya sound, or again, even early Queens of the Stone Age. Solid stuff. I definitely want to get more Nebula in my collection. I just gotta go through and figure out what I'm missing, and I kind of want to check out that new one too, just to see what they sound like these days. But yeah, if you like stoner rock and you just like trippy fucking spacey shit, definitely check this out. And I would say pretty much check out just about anything by this band, because they kind of just do that, which is not a problem at all, because, well, that shit's kind of cool. So yeah, check it out. Strife, Truth Through Defiance. This is a compilation from this California-based hardcore act. Came out in Victory Records. This is my old school Victory Records love, and honestly, this is one of the first hardcore bands I ever got into, so when I saw this, I had to pick it up. This came out in 1999, which was the year they initially broke up. They reformed in 2001, and then, I don't know, they kind of been like reforming and, you know, breaking up a little bit in between there, but they're still around, and their last album's awesome, but I'm going to get sidetracked. Now, this is actually a compilation of, well, essentially like unreleased tracks, which I believe might have been from what would have been a follow-up to And This Defiance, which is like my personal favorite by the band. But this also includes live tracks from both albums and even live demos too, which all sound fucking fantastic. Like, the live sound of this band sounded absolutely amazing. But the tracks that were unreleased I thought were really interesting because that next album, I mean, I know Anger Means was the one that followed it up, but I think they wrote like some entirely different songs than that, or maybe even reworked some of these. But they were definitely different, especially the opening track, Untitled. It's almost kind of nu metal-y. And granted, this would have came out right around the time that nu metal was really starting to fucking catch fire. It still has its hardcore moments, but it's noticeably different, especially when compared to the other unreleased tracks, which are just more straight up fucking hardcore, which is kind of what I expect from these guys. I'm pretty sure Earth Crisis's Slither came out around 99, and yeah, that album, it's not great. And just maybe they were taking some cues from that, and they probably shouldn't have. But I'm kind of glad they came back with Anger Means. I have issues with that album's production, but I think the songs are pretty solid. But the live tracks, honestly, that was the thing I really wanted to check out, and they're absolutely awesome. They do the whole thing where they're just holding out the fucking mic and letting the fucking fans scream back at them, telling them to fucking get the pit started, you know, pretty much, you know, shouting out the hardcore fucking ethics and politics and everything like that. And, you know, it just captures the whole fucking vibe. Like, you know, this was a big thing that I got into when I was young. And Strife, like, Sick of It All, In Cold Blood, and a lot of, like, just Victory Records bands. Like, I know Sick of It All, like, weren't on Victory Records, but they were a big part of my hardcore upbringing. So was fucking Madball to a degree, too. But the Victory Records bands, like, that's where I really got into all the hardcore stuff. And, yeah, it's just cool owning one more thing by this band that, honestly, was probably the most important out of all the hardcore bands for me in terms of me getting into the sound. I don't know if I call it, like, a necessary release, but I think the unreleased songs are pretty good. The live demos and the live tracks, I think, are what really sold me on this. Honestly, if I was going to recommend anything, I'd say get In This Defiance, and I mean, honestly, any of their full lengths I think are really good, but In This Defiance is the one that I absolutely love. I think that's just pretty much perfect hardcore. Like, that's exactly what I look for in hardcore. But yeah, this still has some great stuff on it, and if you love hardcore in general, I strongly recommend checking it out. All right, we got a pair here from the Scorpions. Big surprise, been putting up a lot of pairs from the Scorpions here lately. Anyway, this is their third album, In Trance, came out in 1975. And this is their sixth album, Lovedrive, which came out in 1979. And I know this album cover probably doesn't look familiar, which is why I put up the album cover that most people know, because that album cover is fucking weird. And yeah, Scorpions album covers. Well, we might as well get into that. I don't understand what the fuck's going on in Lovedrive, other than she had a whole bunch of bubblegum stuck to her tit and maybe he's helping her out. I don't know what the story is, but it's fucking weird. And In Trance, well, hopefully I don't get flagged for this, and I don't know if it's, you know, there enough for me to have to put a censor bar in there, but yeah, this chick had her tit hanging out for this picture, and I'm pretty sure this was another album cover that got censored by them. They kind of got a long history of that, and yeah, some questionable decisions made in terms of the album art department, like fucking Virgin Killer. It still just bugs the shit out of me. Seriously, any other idea would have been a better idea than the original cover for Virgin Killer. But enough about that, let's talk about these albums, and they're both very different, and I like them for different reasons. In Trance, holy shit. In terms of the Uli Jon Roth era, man, dude, I love Taken by Force. This could be climbing as my new favorite. The songwriting here is top-notch. Like, I think they just hit another fucking gear on here. Dude, the hooks on here are so goddamn catchy. Not so much when Uli's singing, because Uli's singing isn't great, but his guitar playing is absolutely amazing. The title track on here I have had fucking caught in my head for about a week now, and it won't fucking leave. But honestly, I don't mind, because it just gives me another excuse to fucking listen to it. But these songs are absolutely glorious. They're heavy, but they're very tuneful. The vocal melodies all over here, again, when they're being done by Klaus, are absolutely fucking amazing. And honestly, for the time in 1975, I think this was pretty damn heavy. Like, there's a lot of good heavier riffs on here. The guitar tone has a little bit more snarl to it, but there's a lot of clean play, and dude, the lead work on here is just fucking scorching. That's why I love the Uli Jon Roth era. Like, his guitar playing was absolutely fucking mesmerizing. This whole album was fantastic, especially Living and Dying and Evening Wind. I love the vocal melodies that play in with the lead guitar melodies on Evening Wind. That is such a fucking pretty song. Absolutely amazing stuff. Now, Lovedrive, this was the first one post Uli Jon Roth leaving the band, and this is where they kind of started to streamline their sound and kind of go for more like simple songs in terms of the construction, but with like even bigger, more like lavish hooks, kind of tailor-made for the radio. But this was kind of in an era where radio rock didn't necessarily suck, so these songs were actually really fucking good. The production's bigger. I think there's maybe a little bit more variety on here, just in terms of like, you know, going song to song. Another piece of meat's like a good up-tempo rocker, but you get a really cool instrumental with Coast to Coast, which, I don't know, it's just sort of like moody and atmospheric. And then Always Somewhere might be the German Simple Man, because holy shit, that sounds kind of like Simple Man, like the melody to it and how it's constructed. Kind of close. You even get a little bit of reggae on Is Anybody There. This album was definitely just kind of having fun and flirting with different kinds of accessibility, because I think this band was starting to really catch fire, and maybe without Uli's more progressive or like kind of krautrock leanings in terms of his like songwriting style, these guys became maybe a little bit more listenable to a mainstream crowd, which wasn't necessarily a bad thing. They were still writing really good songs. Overall, I dig both of these, and I don't know, I might be done getting Scorpions albums. I still might get Love at First Sting. Like, you know, who doesn't love Rock You Like a Hurricane? Everyone fucking loves that song. The rest of the album, I mean, yeah, it's okay like that. I think that's maybe my cutoff. I don't know, I might still pick that one up. But in terms of classic Scorpions, I got it all now. And I'm very, very happy with pretty much all of it. Especially this one. This one's the big standout. Like, this one's really good, but, oh, God, this one. But yeah, if you've never jammed early Scorpions, both these albums are fantastic. And honestly, most of the early Scorpion stuff I think is really fucking good. It's just good classic heavy metal / hard rock. It's just well written, fucking awesome songs. You might occasionally have to deal with Uli Jon Roth's vocals, which, you know, that was the thing he wasn't good at. But his guitar playing, fucking amazing. And even without him, they did some really great stuff too. So yeah, definitely check out Scorpions. The early stuff's the shit. The new album was pretty decent, but there's a lot of spotty stuff kind of after Love at First Sting, but I don't know. I may or may not get that stuff. I don't know. I'm kind of a completionist, so who knows? But yeah, check these out for damn sure. Terror, Lowest of the Low. This is the first EP from this LA-based fucking hardcore band. I would say kind of legends at this point. This is one of those, you know, first bands I think of in terms of hardcore. And yeah, I've been a fan pretty much since their full-length debut, One with the Underdogs, which came out a year later after this. And this is just a fucking flat-out ripping EP. I've been meaning to get this one for a while. I saw it in a bin over at Under the Surface Records in Tiffin, and I fucking pounced on it. I'm always in the mood for fucking Terror, especially after that new album, Pain and Power, which is fucking fantastic. And honestly, only about 2 minutes longer than this EP. This is just short, violent, fucking hyper-aggressive hardcore. This is actually back when Todd Jones of Nails was still in the band, and man, the riff work is just fucking bludgeoning. Scott Vogel is one of my favorite fucking hardcore frontmen. There's such energy to his delivery. He sounds like he is just kicking the shit out of you with his fucking voice. Like, he's not even throwing a punch, and with every word he says, like, your nose is bleeding, a tooth fucking falls out. Like, he is verbally just beating the fuck out of you. This checks off pretty much every fucking box I love about hardcore. Pummeling breakdowns, great fucking riffs, there's a little bit of a metallic edge to it. This is don't take shit from anyone fucking music, and it is short, concise, and violent, and it does not relent. There is not a fucking break in the action on this in the entire not even 17 minutes of this EP, which again is only about 2 minutes shorter than their new album, but honestly just as furious. So yeah, know that this band has not lost any fucking steam throughout their career. I would say, like, it's always The Hard Way, which is the name of one of their albums. But yeah, if you've never jammed Terror, holy shit, this would be a great place to start. But literally any Terror album would probably be a great place to start. So yeah, I'm pretty much just telling you, check out some fucking Terror, because Terror is just awesome. They've been one of my favorite hardcore bands for years, and yeah, they continue to be. So I already have all the full lengths. It's time for me to get some more of their EPs and whatever else I can find, just to pretty much complete that little block of fucking nasty hardcore in my collection. So yeah, if you have not checked this out, check out this. Just check out Terror. Just check out Terror, and wear a fucking mouth guard while listening to it because it's gonna punch you in the face. So yeah, be warned. Turmoil, The Process of. This is the second and final full length from this Philly-based hardcore act. I have had a ton of tracks on samplers throughout the years from this band, and actually a couple from this album. And I saw this in the bin again, same place, Under the Surface Records, and it was like, you know, it's just time to own this because I've heard a good chunk of these tracks. I already know this is good. And I bought it. And that's pretty much how that went. And yes, this is absolutely fantastic. This is not as straight ahead and to the point as Terror, but this is very twisted, angular hardcore. It still packs all the rage, but there's like a little bit more spazziness to it. Like, kind of take Terror's aggression, but throw in like Botch's more like twisted, angular riffs and songwriting, or maybe even like the spazziness of like early Converge in there. But again, just that straight up hardcore fucking brutality. There's stuff in here that actually reminds me of early Mastodon in terms of the drum work. Let It Die was the first song I think I ever heard by these guys, and I was just sold on its outright aggression, but finding the CD back then, it just seemed to be kind of difficult. I don't know why, it just seems like, you know, none of the fucking record stores in this area were carrying it. The pace of this album is fucking unrelenting. The opening track, Playing Dead, the first words you hear are "what the fuck," and it's just yelled in your face. And I mean, you know, if that isn't just angsty fucking teenager music, which I was I think still 19 when this came out, so yeah, I was an angsty teenager back then. I'm not now, but I definitely still ask what the fuck a lot. Anyway, this just kind of like echoed that pissed off energy, but kind of showed off some more technicality, and there's a little bit more variety in here. Songs like Impending Doom Theory are a little bit more like slow and doomy, like there's a little bit more atmosphere to them. And then you have Dear John, which is like a flat out DB ripper that is maybe 2 minutes, like I doubt it. I know one song in here that is under the minute mark, Six Demon Bag, which I really hope that is a reference to Big Trouble in Little China, because that's what Egg Shen had. I believe that was the bag of magic that he used. Could be wrong on that one. I don't think I am, though. But yeah, I love this album, and I need to get their first album and some of their EPs as well. Like, this is the only thing I actually own by them outside of all the songs that were scattered across fucking compilations, you know, when this band was still kind of up and coming. But yeah, this is a fantastic hardcore album. Again, not the most straight ahead approach, a little bit more spazzy, more angular, and more like off-time rhythms and shit, but there's still a fuck ton of breakdowns in here to just fucking, you know, destroy shit in your house too. Whatever you do to celebrate your hardcore. Definitely check this one out. It is a monster of an album, and I definitely plan on getting more. So yeah, check it out. Zeo, Liberate Ex Infernus, or Save Yourself from Hell. This is the fourth album from this West Virginia-based metalcore act. I got into these guys around the self-titled album in 2001, and I've been meaning to get some more of their early stuff because this was a really interesting metalcore act. I mean, I say was, they are still around, but they don't put out albums with like very great frequency at least. But generally, whenever they do, except for maybe the last one, I didn't pick that one up, and it isn't because I didn't want it, it's just because I forgot about it up until right now. I usually get their shit because I think they have a really unique style of metalcore, and I think they're one of the early metalcore bands that kind of helped influence the whole scene. Now, this is Christian metalcore. I'm not Christian and I'm not religious at all, but I do like this band just in terms of their music, and even like thematically, like they're a little bit more clever. Like, this was loosely set up as a like Dante's Inferno sort of thing, but I don't think that was the intention recording it. At least that's what I read up on. But in terms of like how the album is set up in terms of chapters, it is set up just like Dante's Inferno, which I know that's a theme that has definitely been taken on by a lot of bands, but it's always an interesting one. Now, according to the band, this is definitely one of their darkest albums, and looking into it, they said they were definitely inspired by bands like Neurosis. And honestly, the intro and the last track, Man, Cage, Jack Wilson, those songs definitely have a lot of Neurosis, like post-metal vibes. They're slow builders. There's a lot more like clean playing that sort of revs up into more like sludgy stuff. But this is very mid-tempo, nasty fucking metalcore. The vocals on here are very throaty and just raw as hell. It's almost sort of a demonic shriek, except, you know, they're Christians, so it's angelic. I don't know. Demonic would seem naughty though, right? Anyway, this is more along the lines of the metalcore that I do like. the pre-mid 2000 sound. Like, I do love, you know, Kill Switch Engage and Unearth and stuff like that, but I tend to gravitate to like the earlier stuff with like, you know, Converge, Earth Crisis, stuff like that. This is definitely more along those lines in terms of the style. It's, you know, groove laden, it's chunky, it's not really caring about accessibility. There's not like clean vocals everywhere. It's not trying to get pretty at any times. And it's very dark and sinister sounding. Like, this doesn't feel like too anthemic at times or too overtly positive. The music reflects the subject matter, and I think that works really well on here. Especially in the song The Ghost of Psalm, or will that be part of Circle 3, The Gluttonous, The Ghost of Psalm. There's a really cool like atmospheric section with these whispers in it that are just very haunting sounding. And then you have an absolute banger on, well, it's Circle 5, The Wrathful, and the song is Kathleen Barbara. And she's a very, very heavy lady, apparently, because, man, the breakdowns on there, fucking ruthless. And in terms of, like, a unifying theme on here, in terms of, like, atmosphere and extras, these guys apparently really love the movie Event Horizon, or at least they did at the time. I still love that movie. I think that is probably what Wes Anderson, whatever his fucking name is. That's probably his best movie. Like, you know, the first Resident Evil's okay, and then, like, you know, whatever happened with the rest of them. But that movie, it's like The Shining and Hellraiser in space. I absolutely love it, and they sample the living fuck out of it. Like, there's so many samples all over here, but they add like a layer of distortion on top of the samples to make them sound a little bit more twisted, as if they really needed that. But yeah, overall, I really dug this. I like Exile. Like, Exile, I think, is, you know, one of those metalcore bands that I think are still relevant, and they still put out really good stuff. It's not, you know, that dated old school sound anymore. Like, I do like Kill Switch Engage, but I feel like whatever they're probably writing right now for their next album, I've probably heard on the last all of them. Probably, but it's still really good. But yeah, I like this, you know, older, grittier stuff altogether. But yeah, if you've never checked out Zao, this wouldn't be a bad place to start. I hear their new album was really good. I might actually order that one just because I totally fucking forgot about it. But honestly, I think most of their albums are really good. So yeah, I'd just say check out Zao in general. And if you choose to start with this one, not a bad pick at all. Formaldehigh Repugnant Barbecue. This is, I believe, the first demo from this. I'm reasonably sure they're from Tiffin. This was the opening band for when John and I went to Tiffin to go see Mutilation Barbecue. And we actually ended up bullshitting with them. They were solid dudes. There's a two-man death metal act. And yes, they named themselves after an Autopsy song off of Shit Fun. And they even cover it on here because, well, I mean, you might as well at that point. But these guys put on a really cool show. Granted, I still think, you know, maybe a bassist in the future wouldn't hurt. Because honestly, on here, the guitar tone is a little bit different. Like, when we saw them live, it had like a bit of that HM2 snarl to it. But it was a little bit more on the gainy side. And when they stopped playing riffs and started doing leads, it was up to like the double bass to sort of carry the low end, and it kind of felt like really empty right there. On this, the guitar tone is a little bit murkier, and yeah, this is a very raw sounding demo. Like, it's just gross sounding, but kind of in all the right ways. I mean, if you named yourself after an Autopsy song, I mean, bare minimum, it should be fucking gross. Now, this is only like 7 minutes long, so I really don't have like a lot to say about it because there really isn't much on here. But overall, it's raw, it's fast, aggressive. I like the songs. They're just brutal and to the fucking point. I will say I think the vocals are a little too buried in the mix. Like, sometimes I could just barely fucking hear them. But overall, it's the music that I really like. Like, I would definitely go back to see these guys. I'm going to argue that there definitely needs to be some more low end in the guitars to sort of fill out the sound live, and maybe a little bit on here, but not as much. But yeah, overall, this is a solid fucking demo. And hopefully I can find some links to stuff on YouTube. If not, maybe a Bandcamp link. I'll try to find a link of some kind because this is really good shit. And if you're from the Tiffin, Ohio area, definitely check this fucking band out live because they put on a really solid show. And if you're not in the Tiffin area and you hear this and it sounds really good, hit them up on Bandcamp, get yourself a copy because this was really fucking fun. Scab Hag, Pustulent Perversions. It's the debut EP from the Cincinnati-based death metal act. Came out last year, and this is another one I picked up at the Mutilation Barbecue show. And honestly, this was like an underlying reason that I had for going because I thought about buying their album on Bandcamp, but I was like, well, I'm gonna see these guys. I'd rather buy directly from them. And holy shit, this is a really fucking good EP. This is very disgusting, groove-laden, just I don't know, like somewhere between Bolt Thrower and Mortician is where this band's sound lurks, and it's fucking nasty. The vocal performance on here is absolutely fantastic. I love the riffs, and it was kind of cool hearing them with two guitars in here, because when we saw them, they only had one guitarist because their other guitarist had COVID, which, yeah, that shit's still fucking hanging out, and unfortunately I got some friends with it right now, but luckily they're doing okay. Anyway, back to the EP. This is flat out fucking gnarly. It's a short offering, but I love the balance of, like, you know, double time grooves and breakdowns on here to just like that up-tempo, punky sort of death metal, especially on Baptize and Bogs of Bile. What a fucking title. The vocal cadences get a little bit faster on there, and I don't know, it's just kind of punky fun, but the song Leeched, I love the song. I love every song on here, let's be honest, but they opened it with a glorious fucking sample, and I know it seems to be a thing here that I keep bringing up, but they sampled Uncle Buck when he was threatening Bug with the hatchet. That is one of my favorite fucking scenes in any movie, like just threatening him oh so subtly. Well, not so subtly if I go back and watch it, or even think about the lines, like shave a little bit off the fucking kneecap. That's not subtle, that's effective. The song itself is absolutely awesome, but to kick it off with that, you fucking win. You fucking have me immediately. This whole EP is fucking awesome. It's just good, gross fun. Go see these guys live. They put on a fucking killer show. I believe they are currently working on like a full length or another EP. I'm fucking stoked for it. It's, you know, awesome hearing another killer fucking Ohio band, which, get ready, there's gonna be another one after this too. But yeah, killer stuff. Definitely check out Scab Hag and keep your eye out for more of their shit in the future. Dissected. This is their self-titled debut EP from last year. This is another band from Ohio. And like Formaldehigh, these guys are also from Tiffin. This is straight up brutal death metal with like a dark, sinister edge. Like, I love how straight up brutal and groovy this band is, and holy shit, go see these guys live. They're fucking incredible. But there's like this doomy atmosphere to it all. The layers of disgusting vocals on here with like shrieks and growls, but you get these big, slow, like doom-laden fucking breakdowns in here. But the breakdowns in here, it's like Mortician playing doom metal. It is so fucking effective, and it is so fucking heavy. Another one where I'd say this whole EP rules. Really no filler on here either. This is just straight and to the point. Like, every song is brutal as hell. This one gets a little bit more blasty than, say, Scab Hag, but most of them kind of just lay on that groove. You still have those punky rhythms, kind of autopsy-esque. But the atmosphere in here occasionally reminds me of bands more like Incantation, too. Eye Deep in Hell actually features a really cool guitar solo, too, which, you know, most of this is just very brutality forward, but that one has a really shreddy, almost kind of melodic solo. But yeah, this is another short, violent offering. Definitely a lot of those that I picked up at the show, and yeah, just flat out gnarly. I think the production is really good too. Might as well throw that out there too. Yeah, definitely check this band out if you are in the Ohio area, and I mean, you see these guys are on the bill. Get ready. Like, that live set's about to fucking be brutal as hell. So yeah, definitely check this band out. Check out this EP, and 100%, if they are in your area, go see them live. It's fucking nasty. Same thing with Scab Hag, and yeah, same thing with most of these bands too. But yeah, I'm gonna throw out some love for some Ohio death metal here, because we got some pretty fucking killer shit here lately. So yeah, another one to check out if you're a rabid death metal fan like me. All right, we have a pair here from Wolftooth. We have their second album, Valhalla, and their third album, Blood and Iron. This is a doom metal / heavy metal act from Indiana. Just recently saw them open up for Crowbar and Spirit Adrift, and holy shit was I blown away. This band is stupid fucking good at just melodic fucking hooks. Now, they recently just added a third guitarist, and generally when I see 3 guitarists in a band, well, I'm looking at a picture of Iron Maiden. But I don't know, generally I think it's kind of too much, but these guys, seeing them live, they know how to incorporate that in such an awesome fucking way. And oh my god, the melodic hooks on both of these albums are fantastic, but they're both kind of different. The Valhalla is definitely a little bit more raw sounding, a little bit more analog, and man, this sounds a lot like The Sword, but maybe like a little bit more on the epic side. It has like those sword-like stomps, like especially from the first 2 albums, but man, do they lay on these beautiful fucking harmonies, and the vocals are definitely quite a bit more powerful than those early Sword albums. But the big thing on, well, I mean, technically both of them, but I mean, this is the one that really got me good, were the hooks. Like, there are hooky riffs everywhere. I really kind of couldn't find any parts on this album that I didn't like. They just seemed to play the right riffs, the right melodies all the time. Songs like Fire Breather and Fear and Eternity get a little bit heavier. There's a little bit more of a heavy metal gallop to them, but there's nice slow doomy sections. There's tons of Black Sabbath love. I mean, hell, the frontman kind of sounds like Ozzy a little bit. And they balance it out really well, and the transitions are really fucking smooth, especially on Crying of the Wolves. There's a good switch off between melody and aggression there. Like, these guys like to get down and dirty and chug, but they also love playing like just killer catchy melodies. Now this one, they jumped over to Napalm Records. This one came out on Ripple Records. So this is kind of a bigger label and maybe a little bit bigger sound. Production is different on here, though I think they took a little bit off in terms of like the crunch on it. It feels like there's more warmth to it. Like the guitars kind of have like a little bit more of that fuzzy warmth, but they don't feel as prominent as they do on here. But this one even dials up bigger hooks. Like this one I think is more about like bringing out more epic choruses, and I think this one also kind of favors the heavy metal side a little bit more than this one, where it's more of a balance between doom metal and heavy metal. After this band's set, when Spirit Adrift was playing, in between songs, Nate Garrett actually shouted out Wolftooth, was like, dude, this band sounds like corn-fed Iron Maiden. I could not agree more. They have that old school Sabbath sound, but with like just that Iron Maiden knack for fucking melody. And granted, this one is definitely more close to heavy metal. Winter White and The Mare definitely have a lot of like Sabbathy influence. Man, Broken Sword in here, absolutely amazing song. Both these albums are amazing. I absolutely fucking love this. I definitely want to check out their first album, not only because it has the werewolf from American Werewolf in London on it. I mean, that's a freaky fucking werewolf. But because I hear that one is actually different than these two. Like, their earlier stuff is way more doomy. And honestly, when I think about it, kind of sounds like the whole progression of Spirit Adrift when you break it down. But yeah, I recommend both of these. They're both fantastic. If you just love catchy melodies and great guitar licks and just good classic heavy metal songwriting, definitely check out both these albums. They're both fucking awesome. You will probably find stuff you love on both. I can almost guarantee it if you just love classic heavy metal and like doom metal. I don't see this being a miss, but that's just me. I could be wrong. You could hate it. I don't think you will, but either way, I'm going to tell you to check it out. And finally, we have We Are in Transit, or Wait, with their debut album, The End of Noise. This is a new project featuring members of Exist and Malignancy, and, well, namely, it's Max Phelps of Exist, and he also Death to All. He's the guy that's been doing the later Chuck stuff and that tribute act, and an amazing musician in his own right. If you haven't checked out Exist, it's amazing progressive death metal. This is also progressive death metal, but it's definitely different than Exist, which I'm kind of glad it was, because, you know, I didn't want to hear two projects that sound the same. This is way more djenty. Like, you still get like some heavy like cynic worship, but mix that with like Meshuggah's heaviness, because this album loves like those, you know, palm muted gent riffs all over the place. And this is very instrumentally driven. Like, vocals can be kind of sporadic on here sometimes, especially the first track, Half Funeral. More than the first half of it is entirely instrumental. The vocals don't pick up until about 4 minutes and 30 seconds. The song is about 6 minutes and maybe some change, but it sounded really good. Again, very different than Exist. The guitars are more bottom heavy. The bass is very fucking present on here. Like, it's a very thick sound. Again, kind of goes to that gent sound. Like, you know, there's a lot of this on here that sounds like Meshuggah, just in terms of the overall tone of it. But Max's vocal performance in here is very interesting. Like, sometimes he's using like the spacey filters to get more of that cynic sound, but he has this kind of odd, almost nasally delivery, and it really reminded me a lot of Snake from Voivod. But sometimes I thought it was a little bit much, where Snake's voice kind of works well with Voivod because it's strange, much like Voivod is. This is definitely progressive and definitely, you know, kind of all over the place, but it's not like that kind of weird. So it kind of felt, you know, a little odd sometimes. Like, it didn't necessarily carry a big epic tune, but he does space out with some growls every now and then. The guitar we're gonna hear can be very interesting. When it's not doing like the syncopated, palm muted chugs, there's a lot of jazz fusion play on here. The drum work on here is solid. The drummer, I can't remember his name, it was a session player on here. But you also get like clean sections that are kind of like weird and atonal and kind of spacey, and very strange leads that have, I don't know, just a strange sound to them overall. Like, they'll go into melodic territory, but they kind of get like deliberately strange just to make the song sound more, twisted. There's a lot of stuff on here that reminds me of Ihsahn's solo career as well, like, just in terms of just being strange and kind of avant-garde. Until the Road is Closed. That actually featured what I thought was a vocal performance from Ihsahn, but that was actually Max doing that. So he's got some interesting vocal variety on here. I do think it goes to the gent well too much, and this is a long album. It's, I believe, over an hour. Some of the songs kind of do drag. Just in terms of like progressive song structure, I don't think they, flow as well as they possibly could. But this is their first album, and this is still really solid. It's just, I think there's maybe too much of it. Maybe some of the fat needed to be trimmed. But overall, I dug this. I think this is a really solid album. I'd heard a lot of buzz about this, and for the most part, I think it does match up to the buzz. It's just maybe a little bulky, and some of the vocal stuff I didn't think was as good, but overall, solid. It's heavy. It doesn't sound like Max's other projects that he's in, so it does stand apart. And pretty much if you're looking for some, fresh progressive metal with some djenty vibes, definitely check this one out. All right, that knocks out a fucking giant stack. And I don't have any stuff I am currently working on, though I have some stuff coming in the mail. Surprise, surprise. So yeah, I'll probably get to work on another collection update after I start another segment. And I'm just kind of lightly teased this one. And I kind of got this idea talking to a friend of mine on Facebook. And she's a big organizer as well in terms of like stuff. And this was something I've been thinking about doing for a while, and I kind of shot past her and was like, ooh, that's kind of a cool idea, and that kind of leaves a lot of room for multiple episodes. So you guys will see that when it premieres. That's all I'm going to say about it, because I want to keep it kind of a surprise, but it'll be fun. As for other stuff for the channel, Pantera ranking, again, still trying to figure out time to get together. I believe schedules will get a little bit easier to work with here the upcoming weeks, just because some of them are shifting a little bit, so we're gonna figure something out in terms of getting that together. We just want to get it recorded. We are all fucking ready for it, so yeah, it's just a matter of getting together. And of course, tons of reviews and stuff. I'm gonna probably do some underrated albums again, so yeah, tons of stuff coming. So of course, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon, and if you'd like to help us out there will be a link down below to thrallsofmetal.com, where you can get one of our shirts and help us on Patreon. There's also a link probably somewhere in our YouTube to Patreon too. I think it's like up in the banner. I don't know. I'm not very observant. Also, I am going to double down on the announcement about Denver Death Fest. It has moved till next year, April 20th through the 23rd, still in Denver, because we couldn't call it Denver Death Fest otherwise. Well, it'd be just silly. But yeah, this gives us more time to actually plan stuff and actually get schedules lined up and everything like that, and we don't have to worry about tours picking up right around then. It's kind of further off in the distance, so we can actually get some commits there. I don't know what the new venue is just yet, but that will probably be announced in the future when we get more things confirmed and we can actually start saying what the lineup is. So yeah, just stay tuned for more updates. Hopefully it won't just be me rambling at the end of videos. Hopefully I will have information for you guys, but yeah, just stay tuned for that shit. And of course, thank you to everyone that has liked, subscribed, followed, all that stuff. We fucking love that shit, man. That keeps us going. Like, again, you guys are kind of the thing that keep us going with all the comments and the love. It's been amazing. Like, this is still a surreal thing. Being mentioned in fucking album liner notes, that's still... I still don't know how to react to that. It's absolutely amazing. Yeah, the whole thing, it's awesome, and it's a thing we get to do and a thing we get to share, and we're gonna keep doing it because I'm certainly not done talking about how much I fucking love metal. So of course, with that, another giant thank you, because that's how I close these videos, and we will catch you later.